Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Learning Guild. I'm Karen Gleason. I'm your webinar host. Our webinar today is with Rachel Griffith-Boyes, and she will be presenting Building a Successful Customer Learning Community, a case study. Rachel Griffith-Boyes is an instructional designer and learning consultant who has been leading the development and growth of the award-winning Totara community and academy for the last 5 years. She has over 15 years experience designing and delivering effective blended learning experiences to users across a range of sectors, from international humanitarian capability building to large public and private sector clients. Along the way, she's become an expert in a range of unexpected subjects and is really now excellent in a pub quiz. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Rachel.
Thanks, Karen. What an introduction. We're already talking about pub quizzes. So let me just share my screen with you all. Hopefully you can all see that now. So thanks everyone for being here this morning, this afternoon, or this evening, depending on where you are in the world. As Karen said, I'm joining from Brighton in the UK, which is right in the south, where it's very cold and very dark. So this is going to cheer me up for the evening. So I'm Rachel and I head up the Totara community, which is a learning community for customers and partners of Totara. So I'm here today really just to talk to you about our experience over the last few years of setting up a learning community and academy, and hopefully to learn a little bit from you as well. I'm going to start with telling you just a bit about us and where we found ourselves, the challenge that we faced about 5 years ago when we started this journey. Then I'll share what we did to set up our academy, so the learning approach that we've taken, some of the design decisions and how we came to them. Then I'm going to talk a bit about how we combined that with our community, which is our informal, so bringing informal social learning together with the more formal aspects of our training. I'll talk through the experience that we offer today, and then I'm planning to finish just with a bit about how we measure success and some of our lessons learned. So yeah, hopefully it's going to be a good session today. We've actually already used the word community today, but I wanted to know, what does community mean to you as a starting point? So perhaps you could share in the chat just 1 or 2 words. What does the word community make you think of? What does it make you feel? And those are perhaps some of the things that we can have in mind as we go through the session today. So do feel free to, yeah, so Sonia's already there with shared experiences, Elizabeth, interactive engagement, Kelly saying people with a common goal, Amy, doing life together. Absolutely. So it's about sharing common things together. Gemma says a group of people with a commonality. Absolutely. So we're talking about a group, we're talking about multiple people, we're talking about sharing and collaboration. Some of the other things that sometimes come up when I ask this question are things like belonging, like being part of something, feeling that you have a space there. And that's been really important to us, is what is community, and what does it mean to be part of the Totara community? So for those of you who don't know us, Totara builds employee engagement, learning and performance management technologies that enable a wide range of customers, from large multinational corporations to government agencies, mid-market companies, to deliver enterprise level talent and workforce experiences. And our key product is what we call the Totara Talent Experience Platform. And that's a combination of a learning management system, which we call Totara Learn, Totara Engage, which is our learning experience platform, our LXP, and a performance management tool called Totara Perform. And all of those 3 things combined, we call the Talent Experience Platform. So what I guess you can tell about us already is that, you know, my job is working in training and training our partners and our customers, and we're training people who work in training. We're training people who work in learning and development roles and HR type roles. And of course, we use our own products to do it as well. So we train on our products, about our products. And we like to say that we're drinking our own champagne when we do that. That's the phrase we use. And some added complexity for us is that we don't often sell direct. So we mainly sell through a network of 85 partners who between them support around 1,400 customer organizations who are based in 35 countries around the world. So you can already imagine that our training challenge can be significant, because we're one step removed from our customers, because we go through a partner, and our customers are very varied and out there doing lots of different things in lots of different places. So I'm going to talk to you today about combining community and informal learning with formal customer training and how we've approached that. I'm really interested to know how many of you have some kind of social learning aspect to your training already. So Karen, if you wouldn't mind sharing our first poll of the evening here.
There we
Lovely.
go. You should
Thanks.
be able to see it, and we'll wait for those responses to come in.
Fantastic. Thank you. So what I'm asking here is, which of these social elements do you use in your learning? This isn't an exhaustive list, but I'm interested to know, do you already offer things like discussion forums? Are there opportunities for people to collaborate and access peer support? Do you offer user-generated content? Do you allow people to like and comment on content? Do you offer things like recommendations, maybe through machine learning? Or do you not do any of those things? So please do answer our poll. I'll give you a couple of seconds to do that. I'm asking a lot of questions already.
Yeah, I am seeing there's some kind of, just one second. Let me just try and relaunch this poll, because there seems to be some sort of issue with it. So hold on one second. Let me relaunch it. All right. Is it now visible to people? There we go. Now responses are coming in. Very odd. This happened before. Great. So, all right. I see everybody's coming in and choosing. So there are multiple choices here. So choose the ones. And we've got a lot of people participating, and participation has slowed down. Do you see those responses, Rachel?
I do. Fantastic.
Okay.
Thanks, Karen. So let's have a look at that. So I guess it's sort of unsurprising that the most things that people are doing is discussion forums and opportunities for peer support and collaboration. I think those are often the things we most think about when we think about social learning or informal learning. And obviously they're huge, they're really important. And that's quite a big aspect of what we do. It's really interesting to see 39% of people are using user-generated content. That's been, I guess, a slightly newer part of our journey, which I'll talk about later. And it's something that I know some organisations have struggled with. So it'll be really interesting to hear from those of you who are doing that. And great that actually most people are doing something social, some sort of informal learning. So fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. And Karen, we can probably end that poll now. Thank you. So I'll stop asking you questions and talk to you about where we found ourselves 5 years ago and the journey that we've been on. So I wanted to just explain a little bit about the challenge, really, why things were difficult or what we were trying to address. So as I mentioned, we're a product business, but we're one step removed from the customers that we serve. We have, as Totara, it's a really feature-rich and very flexible product, and it has quite a range of use cases. So it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all model where we can provide very clear, this is exactly how it will work and exactly how it will look for everybody, because people use it in different ways for lots of different use cases. And we had a partner network who were the ones supporting our customers with quite varied skills and experience. They'd come to us through different routes, had worked with Totara for a long time, or obviously newer partners. But what we wanted was to make sure that we had a partner network who were well enabled to sell and support our products so that our customers were getting the best experience of Totara. And we also wanted to make sure that the customers themselves were enabled to be successful with their products through providing training and resources. And in engaging with our customers in that way, also the ability to learn from them too, to create a space where we felt like one community and one network, so that there was the voice of the customer feeding back into the product work that we were doing. But when we did our customer NPS survey a few years ago, that's the Net Promoter Score for anyone who's not familiar with it, we heard from our customers that they weren't confident in using their products as effectively as they'd like to. So 5 years ago, what we did offer was what we call now the old academy. It was just 2 courses on a Totara platform, one for each of the 2 key roles that we have on the site, so for a site administrator and a course creator. The courses that we offered were mainly, you watched like an hour-long recorded webinar, but lots of them. And we had manually graded assignments where we set you a task and somebody went and completed the task in their system, took screenshots of it, uploaded them to us. We would then look at them and grade them and send that back. So it was a really manual process. And there was also quite a long quiz. I think there was like a 90-question assessment or something like that. That was what they were comprised of. And they were mainly taken by partners, so we didn't get very much engagement at all from our customers on that. And at the same time, we had a separate community site, what we called the community, which was a set of discussion threads, which were mainly, again, used by partners. It was quite a technical Q&A space. It wasn't very accessible by our customers. And we weren't really engaging, I think it was something like a quarter of the users on these sites were customers at all. And honestly, it wasn't a great experience. It wasn't representative of what Totara products can do. It wasn't representative of best practice. And we also charged a nominal fee for it. So we charged people by the course that they wanted to take, which became a bit of a barrier to access. So it meant that we weren't getting as many people trained, when actually well-trained partners and well-trained customers is in everybody's best interest. They get the best out of their products, and then we have happy customers who stick with us. So so something like that needed to change. And I think what we knew is that we did have some appetite to engage with us in this way. So it was a foot in the door and a starting point. So what did we do? Well, the first thing we did was we established a team. So before that, this was just a project from one person who worked at Totara. And so this new team, which is actually how I came to be in the business, was created specifically to look at the academy and what we could do with it. The first thing we did as a team was to complete a learning needs analysis. So we did things like we surveyed current users of the community site and the academy site. We talked to people internally, so internal stakeholders, people who were working with partners, to find out what they thought. We also did things like analysis of support tickets and looking at our help site, the top pages that were being accessed. So to see if we could identify some common themes of, what in the product were people really struggling with, were there particular features that were either very popular and therefore could be prioritized for training, or that were particularly difficult to use. So we pulled together all of that kind of analysis. And one of the things that we did out of that was also create some personas for our users. So we wanted to know, who are we targeting our training at? Who is the audience that we're trying to serve with this training? And from this, we established a vision of where we were trying to go. So this is us kind of laying the foundations. I'll just talk a little bit more about the user personas that we developed. So we came up with, I think, about 7 in the end. There are 3 here as examples, and also just to show you the diversity of the audience that we are working with. So on the left here, we've got Eric Expert, who is our experienced technical lead from a partner organization. So he's the type of user who he's really technical. He already understands the product, he understands the market and the context in which the product would be used. So he has very different needs to our second user here, who's Amy Administrator, who is what we're calling a reluctant site administrator in a customer organization. So she's not super bought into wanting to know everything about Totara. She just wants to know how to do her job. And the third one we have here is Katie Keane, who is a really enthusiastic content designer. So she's somebody who's working in an L&D role. She's very enthusiastic about doing the best that she can, and is really keen and interested and looking for information. So as you can see, they're all coming with different needs and different backgrounds, different levels of experience. And we were looking to try and meet all of those with one solution. So that was our challenge. And as I said, we also set a vision. So what we wanted to do was look at not only what are we trying to do for our users, but also what are we trying to do for us as a business. That's an important part too. So this tries to do both of those things, and this has been our kind of guiding light since then. I wrote this, it was pretty much exactly 5 years ago, but I think we still stand by it pretty much. So here we've said that Totara Academy drives sales and customer retention by developing partners' abilities to sell and support Totara products, and helping customers to use their Totara products to deliver effective blended learning. And these days that would also include employee engagement and performance management, as we've added those products on. The Academy will be a best practice blended learning experience which both instructs and demonstrates Totara products' rich functionality. So one of the things for us is we're using our product to train on our product. So you're getting an experience as a learner to learn how to deliver a good learning experience to your learners. So it was really important that, we're a real showcase, we're a best practice example of what Totara can be. We wanted to encourage more direct contact between Totara and customers to make us more approachable, and as I said, to hear that voice of the customer. And we also wanted to engage a new wider community with Totara by becoming a source of knowledge and learning for the global L&D community. I should say that's very aspirational. I think what we're trying to get at there is that the Totara community isn't just for people who use Totara, or it doesn't have to just be that, because what we do try to do is we build in a lot of best practice content too. So we have a lot of material that's relevant regardless of what tool you're using, regardless of which LMS or which performance management tool you're using. So that might be, what do best practice appraisals look like? What is continuous performance management? How might I roll that out? We have lots of material around that, which is it's not just relevant to the Totara product, but for anybody working in HR and learning and development in those areas. So that's what we were trying to do, was be more open and provide value back to the wider community. So with that vision in mind, and I should say a lot of hard work, we relaunched our new academy in 2017. Some of the key decisions we made were we removed those barriers to access. So you used to have to email us to request an account and then pay us some money in order to access your course. But today, the site is self-registration and everything is open to everybody. So I would encourage all of you after the session, if you're interested to know a bit more, please do come along, sign up. It's totara.community, and you can have a look around and take some of our courses and see how we're working. The idea being that we just want people to be enabled as quickly as possible. If we have a customer who wants to know how to do something and they want some training, we don't want them to have to wait 24 hours for us to set them up and send them an invoice. Actually, we want them to get access to that content right away so that they can get on with their job and use their Totara product as they want to. So that was one of the big decisions. We also completely restructured our learning content and the approach that we take to training. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But basically everything is shorter, everything is feature focused, and we took a blended learning approach. And what I mean by that is using a range of different activity types and different pathways, depending on what the learning need is, so what was most appropriate for our users. And so when it comes to content structure, I think this is one of the biggest changes that we've made, was to really rethink, how do people access our materials? What are they trying to do? What's the journey that they're having? And having those personas was really helpful in that, because it helps us to kind of keep focused on different people's needs. So these days, the way that we structure our content is that everything is in really short little bites of content, short activities. So that might be a demo video showing you how to complete one specific task in the Totara product. It might be a tutorial on best practice around how to run an appraisal, or what multi-tenancy is, or employee engagement. It might be a PDF takeaway that you can download and take with you when you're next thinking about planning your check-ins with your team. It might be a quiz to test your knowledge so that you can demonstrate your competence. We have lots of system simulations where you can practice something in a simulated system environment. And the idea is that people can come in and just access one of these things. So if all you want to do is watch a video on a new feature, that's absolutely fine with us. We don't require you to take a full course and complete it. If that meets your need, then that's absolutely fine. But of course, that doesn't meet everybody's needs. Some people do want or need a more structured course environment. So all of those activities also sit within a course. So we will have a course that has a much more scaffolded, structured approach that takes people on a journey. So assuming that they don't really know anything about appraisals, because that's the example I keep using, we will build up knowledge through a series of targeted activities, which will end in things like a simulation and a quiz, where people can then really test whether they've understood and can implement what we've been teaching. And if you complete your course, you get a badge. So we use open badges, which people can then use obviously in the community on their profile. But you can also upload to an external backpack and actually upload into your own Totara site. So you're starting to build a picture of the skills that you have. And that's still not all, because we have each of these courses focused on an individual feature. And that's great if what you want to know about is just a new feature. But if you're new to Totara, or you're new to a Totara partner and you want to really demonstrate your skills because you're going to be the site administrator of this site, then we also offer certified programs which package up a whole load of related courses, all of the skills that you might need to be a site administrator, to be a course creator. And we pull all of those together and say, well, if you complete all of these courses, then we will certify you as a Totara site administrator. One of the great things about this is that however you're accessing these materials, you're accessing the same thing. So from a resource perspective for us, from a kind of development plan, when you access that video, whether you access the video or you access it in the course, or you access it in the course which is within a program, you're actually accessing the same thing. So we don't have to duplicate anything. There's no duplication of effort. So actually we're able to be quite productive and release quite a lot of course material, because we're only ever doing those things once. And actually we use those things even beyond the academy. So some of our demo videos end up in our help documentation, for example. Sometimes we'll have like concept animations that end up being used in marketing materials. So there's lots of flexibility for how these things are used because they're quite small. And the other benefit is that obviously as things change, we're then only updating the bits we really need to update. So we might have a course with 10 activities in it. There's a new release of the product and we have to update 2 of those, but then we've got an updated version of that course. So the model's been quite flexible for us in terms of the way that we work. And it's also quite flexible for our users in terms of the way that they access their learning content. So I thought I would just quickly explain how this, just to kind of reiterate that point, how this meets the needs of some of our persona users. So Eric Expert, if you remember, he's our technical lead at a partner organisation. What he probably does is he only comes when he wants to know about a new feature that's been released. He might just watch the video, have a little look around the system simulation so he can try it out for the first time. And then he'll probably take the quiz because he wants to get his badge so that he can demonstrate his competence to his customers. So it meets his needs because he only has to take the content he wants to. He's not forced through any content that's not relevant to him. He can learn really quickly because he's familiar with the system, so he understands the context, and he can really quickly demonstrate his competence to customers if he needs to. And then in contrast, somebody like Amy Administrator, she probably takes the course because somebody tells her to, because they've pointed out that this is something she needs to know about. She might ask loads of questions in our course forum. So she might be one of these users who comes in, asks for a lot more support. She probably builds her confidence through taking that more structured, scaffolded approach. So she might watch every video, take every tutorial, and kind of build up her knowledge that way. But she might not take the quiz because to her, there isn't that much value in having that badge. So we're meeting her needs by offering her a much more scaffolded support. So she gradually builds her knowledge. The activities are short, so it can be built around her day when she's doing lots of other things. Totara might not be the only part of her job. And she's got access to experts via the course forums. And again, she doesn't have to take things she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to take the quiz. That's fine. We're never going to take the course away from her. And then finally, with Katie Keane, she probably signs up to loads of stuff because she's really enthusiastic. And she might be one of those users who learns and then ends up contributing back to things like the forums where Amy's asking her questions. We also have things like collaborative wikis where we put in our team's like top tips on a feature, but then we invite our users to add to it. And she probably does take the mandatory content so that she can get her badge, because that's something that she's proud of and she wants to demonstrate her skills. So for her, we're meeting her needs because there's a really broad range of content and opportunities for her to learn about something she's enthusiastic about. She's also gets the opportunity to share that back and contribute back, and she can demonstrate her skills with her badge, which is important to her. So that's the approach that we've taken to our content. This is just an example of a course page, and all of our courses are structured in quite a similar way so that we have consistency. Users understand what to expect when they come into a course. So we normally follow 4 kind of key sections. So we'll have something called the problem, which is what's the real world problem that this feature in the product is trying to solve. Like, we're explaining the why. Why would you want to use this? Then once we've convinced people of that, we go to Skill Up, which is presentation content. So that's demo videos, animations, tutorials on best practice, something that really builds the user's knowledge. And all of that content is optional. We then have something called Have a Go, which is your turn. So that's system simulations. It might be diagnostic tools to help you translate it into real life. We'll link off to help documentation for you to review, so you're really getting a good understanding of the support available. And finally, we have something called Prove It, which is when you're ready, a final course quiz just to help consolidate learning and help people to achieve their badge if that's something that is important to them. So as I said, most course activities are optional, but if you complete or pass the quiz and the simulations in the course, then that's when we award you your badge. So there is that kind of recognition of achievement for people who are interested in it. So I just thought I'd show you briefly a few of our content types. This is an example on the left here of what would be a demo video, so literally a system demo. We've got on the right-hand side an example of an animation, so a more scenario-led animation explaining probably a use case. This is screenshots all from the same, a kind of concept animation. So sometimes system concepts especially can be quite difficult initially to understand. So this is in multi-tenancy as an example. Now, before I worked in technology, I wouldn't have known what multi-tenancy was. So this is the first step in just helping people to understand, what does this term actually mean and how might I start to think about whether it's something for me? And I suppose the other side of our video content is kind of inspiration and showing people what's possible in Totara and how they might go about doing that. So we'll show something we've built and how we've built it. These 2 examples are what I've called practice and assessment. So these are the 2 things that would be mandatory in a feature quiz, in a feature course, I should say. So there's the quiz, which you can see on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side is an example of one of our system simulations. So these have the task panel on the right-hand side, and then you get 3 lives, and you have to complete the task within those 3 lives. And if you don't, you have to reset and try again. So it's just a way of getting people to demonstrate that they know how to complete specific tasks for a use case, and giving people also a kind of a sort of a hands-on system feel if it's a feature that they don't have yet or that they haven't used. And finally, I've called this bringing things to life. You know, the big thing is what we're actually doing is enabling people to do their jobs, and their job is working with Totara in some capacity. But they're not here to work with Totara. They're here to achieve something in their business, in their workplace. And so we also try to incorporate a lot of content that helps to translate that. So that will be things like on the left-hand side here, we have a kind of graphic novel style fictional scenarios that we use. So that's a more in-depth scenario which explains the feature and the use case. So what was the problem the business faced? How did this feature support them in overcoming that problem? Really helping people to understand how it might apply to them in the real world. And then even more personal, we have on the right-hand side an example of a diagnostic tool. So what this kind of activity does is it asks a series of questions about what's important to you, what do you need from the feature, and then it suggests what you might want to do. So in this case, there are a number of ways of using multi-tenancy in Totara, depending on what you're trying to achieve by having multi-tenancy enabled. And so we ask a series of questions. Is user management important to you? Is different theming important to you? And depending on the answers that you give, we suggest these are the features that you might want to use based on the answers you've given. So that's really just about helping our users really transfer what they're learning into their real world. So that's our plan. So I've told you a little bit about what we do, and I'm really interested to know how similar or different this is to what you're doing. So Karen, if you wouldn't mind sharing our second poll.
All right, is everyone seeing this poll? Anyone? No. I'm not seeing any responses coming in. So let me just let me quick relaunch. And now can everyone see the poll and launch? And there we go. Wonderful. I don't know why, but relaunching works today.
Just want you to press it twice today.
Exactly. So responses are coming in, and it is multiple choice. And we'll let the responses come in. Interesting responses I'm seeing. We'll give it a few more seconds for those of you who'd like to join the poll and let us know.
Fantastic.
Yep, we have almost everybody here. I'm just going to give it a couple more seconds. See if there's anyone who would like to make their final selections here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share our results out.
Brilliant. So it looks like our most popular option is video demonstrations. They are actually our most popular activity as well. That's the thing we get the most feedback on, is how useful people find that, and it's just such a common thing that people expect, I think, of training now. So that's great to see. We've also got pretty high scores for scenario-based learning and assessment. Scenario-based learning, as we all know, obviously, really helps people to translate what they're learning into real life and to really put it in context. So that's fantastic. Interesting to see that diagnostic tools are the lowest. I think I probably would have expected that. They only work in some contexts, but it's been quite a popular thing for us where we have introduced it. We don't provide it in every course by any means, but where we have used it, I think people have found it useful. Fantastic. Well, thanks everyone for contributing to that poll. So I'll move us on to what did we do next? So that was kind of the academy side. That's our formal training arm, if you like. But about a year later, we decided to bring together our separate community site and our academy, with the idea of bringing together formal and informal learning opportunities in one place. The way that I like to think about this is that if somebody just wants to know something about Totara, they don't necessarily think, oh, I want to go to formal training, or oh, I want to go to a forum and ask a question. They just want to go to one place where they can get the support and the information that they're looking for. And so that was our thinking when we started to think about combining them. And also for us as a product business using our own products, it was an opportunity to showcase how some of our products could work together. So looking at Totara Learn as our LMS to support the more formal side, and then Totara Engage as our LXP supporting the more collaborative learning aspects. And so that was the next kind of project for us. And I'm just going to show you a little bit about how that looks today. So we have come a long way in the last few years. So this is our the look and feel of our site today. We have our own community and academy brand. So we have our own colours as part of the broader Totara brand palette. So we're kind of part of the global brand, but we also have our own brand markers, which I think is really nice. We have a really strong identity of our own. This is the homepage, and at the top underneath the banner here, you can see our trending block, and what that shows is what's popular on the site today. So already to try and kind of bring in a sense of community, what are other people doing? What are other people interested in and engaging with today? So that might be resources, webinars, polls that we're running, and that changes dynamically as activity on the site changes. So that's that's a really nice way of showing what's really current and what's of interest to people at the moment. The other thing that's really cool about this space is that depending on who you are, you can see different things. So we can show different content to different groups of users. So we have quite a big difference between the information we might share to our partners as to the information we might share to our subscribers. So in the main, they take the same training because they all need to know how to use the product. But there might be additional information we want to provide to partners. We might provide that information earlier in advance. And so what we're able to do here is to present different information. So you come to the same homepage, but you might see a different course advertised to you or access to different resources. And that goes across the site too. So from that homepage, you've got access to everything else on the site. This is an example of one of our discussion and collaboration spaces. We have, as you'd imagine, in a community, quite a wide range of these. So they're normally separated by topic, and that might be by the product that you use, but it also might be, and what we're kind of moving towards now, it's more about use case. So, I'm interested in reporting, or I'm interested in personalization, or we have a space on supporting remote working. So obviously that's been very topical over the last couple of years. We've also enabled some what we call sector spaces. So a sector space is where users from the same sector can come together to support each other. They have actually been, I would say, some of our more kind of exciting spaces in the sense that there is a real sense of community there. We've had two in particular, healthcare and government, where the spaces are completely self-sustaining. So we basically stay out of them and we just provide the opportunity and the space to work together. We have moderators who are from those sectors and they kind of look after the space, and we've had really great conversation and problem solving happening in those spaces quite dynamically sometimes. So that's been really exciting to see for us. And then the flip side of that is obviously on the same site, you've got access to your formal learning. So this is our Academy catalogue, which includes all of our self-paced courses. So the product courses that I was describing earlier, and access here to our webinars, to our resources. And our catalogue is filtered by things like which version, which product you're using, what your role is, type of content you're looking for. So whether you're looking for a course, a program, a webinar. So the idea is really just, again, to make sure that people have access to targeted learning and the stuff that's right for them. So that's what we're trying to achieve there. And earlier we mentioned user-generated content. And this is something that's, as I said, quite new for us. We have now what's called your library, and that means that you as a user can come along and create your own playlist, either from resources that we offer, or you can even upload your own resources. And you can do that just for yourself. So just as a way of kind of bookmarking and pulling things together that you want to refer to. You can share it with specific other community users. So you might have a colleague who's using the community and you can share it with them. And you're also actually able to share something to the whole community. So if you've got something of value to share, you can do that too, and other users can make use of it. So that's something that's quite new for us, but I think has exciting potential. So that's user generated stuff. And then the other kind of very personalized side of it is this, which we call My Dashboard, and that's a personalized page all about you. So this actually, I think, is where people come most often because it's where they can get access to the last course they access, their latest badges, forum posts that they've interacted with, quick links that they can edit themselves. They can build up their own kind of quick links menu so that they can navigate around the site to their favorite places, recommendations for you as a user based on what we know about you. So yeah, that's the other side of kind of bringing a more sort of personalized aspect. And the great thing is for us that we're able to deliver all of this using our own products. So users are getting to experience another Totara site. So they're interested in Totara, they can actually come along and be on our site using a Totara site, learning about Totara, and hopefully it's a bit of a source of inspiration on what's possible as well. One of the things that we have to think about, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with, is how you maintain continued engagement. So how do we keep it so that people don't just come once, take a course and leave and never come back? And we have a few ways that we do that. So we offer a webinar schedule, which is a whole range of things, from like product demos from our internal team, also customer case studies, so asking customers to come and talk to us about their implementations, and then thought leadership, external thought leadership presentations. And our team also share our experiences of working with the product. Um, Slightly ironically, our most watched webinar ever is one that we gave on the Adapt authoring tool. So it's not our product, but it's a product that we use, and our course developer is super familiar with it. And so he ran a webinar on that, and it's had thousands and thousands of views. But that's great, because I think that's, it's part of us contributing back to the community that we're also a part of. We also offer micro learning, so that's like an opt-in. You get a weekly email with a short video and then links to other stuff that might be relevant to you. And actually about a quarter of our active users have signed up for that in the last few months. That's just been launched this year. We send out a weekly community update, which is just saying, here's what we've done this week, here's new courses available, here's weekly poll, those kinds of things to keep people engaging. And we consolidate all of that into a monthly newsletter as well. So these are just some of the means by which we're trying to kind of maintain, just maintain interest and getting people to keep coming back and remembering we're here, because, this isn't the main part of most people's jobs. And so we just want to make sure they always know what's available to them. And that's just another example of some of those things. So I said I would talk a little bit about lessons learned, or things that we found particularly challenging. Some of the things that we've faced along the way and overcome to some extent. I think the fact that we're just catering to a very diverse range of learners with different needs, and who actually we don't know, they don't work for us. That was a real challenge at the start. And I think we've come a really long way in achieving that. There's still more to do. We have a couple of different levels of content. So most of our product training kind of assumes that you understand a bit about the space you're working in and a bit about what Totara is, but introduces the feature in a lot more detail. But we did also offer a complete beginners course, which is a complete novices. We assume you know nothing. And that's been actually our most popular course. That's the one that's taken the most. But we don't currently cater to the more sort of technical end of our audience, and that's something that we do get requests for. So that's something that we could still look to build out, I think. One of the other perhaps kind of surprising challenges to me was that we have to explain what our value is, and that just because it's free doesn't mean it's rubbish. We definitely have had feedback from some partners that they've actually struggled to get people to engage with it, because they think if we give it away, it probably isn't very good and it's not really worth engaging with. And that was really surprising to me, because I thought everyone would just be really excited that they didn't have to pay for it. But it's interesting about just that perception of value, and the value of training that we offer. So yeah, us being really clear about what's available is really important. If any of you work for a product business, you will know that one of the big challenges of product training is always keeping pace with the product that you're training on. And we have a new version release every 6 months. And so that means that there's always some kind of maintenance on our courses, new features. And that's a kind of ongoing challenge for us, is just making sure that we can always keep up with product development. And the final thing I've got on this list is what I'm calling tricky initiatives. And that's things that we've launched that kind of worked, but kind of didn't, or didn't work in the way we expected. So that's things like sector spaces, healthcare and government was brilliant. The other ones, basically nothing happened. We tried them out and there wasn't much interest or engagement in them. And things like user-generated content, as I said, that was quite new to us. But we're not getting a lot of uptake in that. So I think, again, it's going to be about explaining why you would do that, and what would be the benefit to you, and then how to contribute that back to the community. So before I finish, I was going to just talk to you about some of the kind of key results that we've had just quickly. From a really small number of our customers engaging with our materials, today over 75% of customer companies have somebody using the community. That's obviously huge for us. It's a big increase. And 86% of the users who took one of our current courses rated the course they took as good or excellent. So we have really great course feedback. And of course, remember, the people we're training are often people working in learning. So they have quite a critical eye sometimes, which is good. It keeps us on our toes. We've grown our total user count from 6,500 3 years ago to 14,000 today. And our active users, which is people who've engaged with the site in the last year, has grown from 1,550 3 years ago to over 5,000 today. So we are definitely seeing quite a big increase in the usage. Our Academy videos have been viewed, I think actually it's now over 125,000 times on YouTube. And interestingly, during the pandemic, we had a big increase in logins in the kind of early stages and lockdown over here. Suddenly there was a lot of access to the site and a lot of activity, which probably because people were at home with time for training, but also people reaching out and looking for support and resources from one another. And it's really fantastic to be a space where that's available. I can't do a presentation like this and not share some of the great feedback that we get. And I pulled this one out because this is actually something that somebody said in a webinar. A customer gave a webinar for us. And the things I like about what she said here is that she talks about it's helpful when you just need to know how to do that thing right now. So that's really what we're aiming for. You know, this is performance support available at the point of need. She also says that you've got the community to ask questions of other Totara users, and when you'll get a bit stuck, and you can connect with other people. So then that's the kind of collaboration, community, social side of it, is that she feels that she's got access to that when she needs it. So that's really great to see. And these are some quotes from some course feedback. Somebody said, I think it's the best open source enablement for an LMS solution I've ever seen, which is very nice for us to read. I've pulled out that one because it's a differentiator for us. So it's about the fact that the quality of the training we offer is a differentiator for us in the market. The second one here, the user said that we made them fall in love with the product, and you know that's all about brand values and perception of Totara as a brand. That's really important to us too. And the third one I pulled out because this user said they're looking forward to upgrading, and that's what we really want. We want to be encouraging people to always be on the latest version. And so that's just another marker to show the impact that we're having, not just in training people, but also on the business too. And now I'm going to show you a graph that looks like it's going in the wrong direction, but I promise you it isn't. So as well as the metrics within the community itself, we also look at how we might be impacting other areas of the business. This is one example of that. This is actually a graph of underutilized sites. So sites where the customer isn't getting the best use out of the product. And that over time, and that's not, we can't lay claim to all of this, but it's something that we contribute to, is making sure that people are really getting the most out of their products. And the last time we ran our customer NPS, we were up 4 on the previous year. And actually in the survey comments, a number of people called out the support that they get from the community and the academy. So again, that's fantastic because that's about people's perception of Totara as a business and also of our products as well as our training. So that's a really nice one for us. And I've got a final question for you. There's no poll associated with this one, but I just thought we could share ideas in the chat about how you measure the success of your training initiatives. I think personally, this is one of the things I find the hardest. Yeah, you know, how do we really demonstrate the success of our training, the value of our training? So yeah, I'd be really interested if anyone has any thoughts on how you measure success. Do you look at do you just look at kind of happy sheets at the end and course feedback, or are you tracking impact across the business? I'll give you a couple of minutes in case there's a couple of seconds in case anyone has any thoughts on that.
While we're waiting for some of those responses to come in, Rachel, there's a couple of questions that I think we can address.
Fab, yeah.
The first one has to go back to when you had discussion moderators. And the question is, what kind of support do you provide to the discussion moderators, if any?
Sure. So most of the moderators are Totara staff. So that's kind of shared as a responsibility across people like our support team who work with our support desk. And but also, product experts across the business, our product team, sometimes our technical team. The exception to that is those moderators that I mentioned who work in the sector spaces specifically, because we felt it was quite important for those spaces to be moderated by someone who represented that space. What we gave to them initially, well, there were some initial conversations obviously about their willingness to do it, and some of them volunteered and some of them we approached. We provided guidelines, so we have published guidelines on the site about behaviour on the site. We don't get bad behaviour, but just to cover us in case, and some guidelines for them around what was expected in terms of the role of the moderator. I think they found it to be quite a nice experience. They have a few extra permissions on the site that mean they get to add a few extra things and play around with the spaces that they moderate. But yeah, so mainly it was just some initial conversation, and then obviously we're always available and we can step in and support if needed.
All right, great. So you did get some responses to your question. If you want to look in chat there.
Yeah. So Sonia said, we work with trainers and outside clients, so the trainers are tracking smile sheets and follow-up work. Yeah, so it's the follow-up work that's particularly interesting there as well, isn't it? Like, how have people got on in the real world with what they've learned? And Thomas says, so currently we measure success based on consumption and survey feedback. Yeah, so consumption's another measure for us, just looking at the volume of people who are coming into the academy, enrolling in courses, and what percentage of them then complete them. And Vanessa says that you observe how many people apply the skills and knowledge after a few weeks or months. That sounds like the holy grail to me, Vanessa. That would be fantastic to be able to look at actual real world skills and see how people are actually doing that and what difference it's making to the way that they're working. I would love to have that kind of level of reporting for our training. Fantastic. So I think just one more slide, which was just to say the things that are coming up next for us that we're thinking about, of more further personalization. So looking at how can we make it even more of a personal experience when you come to the community, looking at linking more strongly between the community and our products, and translation of our materials. So at the moment we only offer everything in English. But yeah, we'd really like to offer that in other languages too. So that's one of the challenges ahead of us. I'm sure there will be many more. Fantastic. So I don't know if there are any other questions, Karen, or if anyone would like to ask any questions.
Yeah, there's a couple other questions. The first one is the platform SaaS based?
Yeah, so we have a SaaS version. Yeah.
Okay. And then a question about the personas. What kind of information was included in those user personas?
Yeah, so from what I can remember, it was a little bit about kind of demographic information. So just to help us to kind of picture the person, there was some stuff on existing skills. So what skills do they already have? Access to technology. So what technology might they be using? Like to kind of imagine at what points in their day they might be engaging with the content. And then it was about their goals and their motivations. So what are they coming to the training to achieve? What motivates them? Is it passing a quiz and getting a badge? Is it just being able to get through it as quickly as possible so they can get on with their day? So it was a range of things like that. We also tried to include on them like a direct quote from users who were representative of this group. So where we'd done interviews with people, or where we'd got feedback from either from course feedback or from surveys that we've run to get kind of opinions on how we're doing, we would add those to the personas as well to give that real like true voice of that type of a user. So although they're obviously a kind of amalgamation of lots of different people to try and give that like a sense of a real voice, so they were included on there as well.
All right, thank you. And then a follow-up, is there a non-SaaS version?
There is.
So we can have Totara either as SaaS or non-SaaS. So that should
Yeah.
answer the questions there. That's great.
Yeah, I'm sure there's loads more information on our website, totaralearning.com, I should say.
Right, great. And then another question came in. How do you build your simulations with the lives element or lives element? I'm
Lives,
sorry.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So there are 3 lives. So they're built in Articulate Storyline and by somebody much cleverer than me. Our course developer, he's a bit of an expert in that area. So yeah, it's all built, I believe, into one kind of timeline, and then yeah, there are lots of triggers in that timeline. Very complicated, but we do have. We ran a webinar on that actually because we get that question quite a bit in the community. Lots of people are interested in creating simulations. It's a pretty common thing, especially with obviously systems training. So yeah, if anyone's interested in that, we do have a webinar on it, which is available in the community for anyone who wants to come along and watch it.
Oh, great. Then everyone can go and see how that is done in another webinar.
Perhaps
That's
I should
great.
watch it.
I know I'm going to watch it, so that's great. Um, and then a question came along, how many users actually complete the courses if they're not mandatory?
So it's about 25%, I think, of people who enroll in the course go on to complete it. It's quite a lot higher if you just look at our partner user base. So because partners are, Totara is their job in the main, selling and supporting a Totara implementation. And because they obviously want to be certified and to be able to be recognized as having that skill. I think they're more motivated to complete the courses, whereas what we see is that we have some really engaged customer users who are like our Katie Keene type people, I suppose, who are really engaged as part of their job, and who will complete too. But most of our customer users just come along and access the resources available to them, which is absolutely fine. I always say that we allow completion tracking because people might want it, and it is interesting for us, and it's a way of us recognizing achievement for somebody to achieve something, but it's not important to us as long as what we're actually doing is enabling people to go out and use their Totara products to deliver really good learning and performance engagement out there in the real world in their organizations. So yeah, so that 25% figure is quite low, but it's actually in that context, I think it's pretty good. And yeah, that's quite static. So we'll see whether that continues to be the case.
All right, thanks. So, what is the structure of your team?
So we're actually a really small team. So when we first built, there's just 3 of us, and actually we pretty much have the same structure now. So it's me, and I head up the team, but I also do almost all the instructional design and the content production of kind of scripts and that kind of thing. Um, we have visual designer, and we have a course developer who's also our administrator on our LMS on Totara. But we get a lot of support and input from other people in the business. So we have somebody who's responsible for partner onboarding and enablement who runs like our webinar schedule. And obviously we're really lucky because we have a whole business full of people who know about Totara. So they support the forums and support us technically and all of those kinds of things. But our immediate team, actually, when you look at the headcount, it's just those three kinds of roles, which is I'm quite proud of what we achieved with the few of us that there are.
That's wonderful. A very lean team that's
Yeah.
produced quite the product here. So that's wonderful. So it does speak to the fact that you, as a LMS administrator in your organization, you don't need to have a whole lot of people with Totara. So that's great.
Yeah, it's setting it up in the right way and being very structured about the way that you approach it. But yeah, I mean, and obviously we've been working together for a long time now as well, so we're a pretty well-oiled machine.
That's wonderful. Do you use just Totara products or other tools as well?
So pretty much just Totara products, but obviously we use authoring tools as well. So we use for our SCORM content, obviously Articulate Storyline, and we use Adapt for some of our tutorials, and Adapt's an open source authoring tool, which we really like. And obviously some kind of graphics tools and things that the visual designers use. But yeah, in the main, what you see is Totara.
Wonderful. And with that, we've come to the end of our webinar. I thank you all for joining us today, and I thank Rachel for her great presentation. And this webinar has been sponsored by Totara. So we'll see you at the next webinar, and have a good rest of your day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.